All right, Juwan Howard will miss the remainder of the regular season, suspended for his role in the post-game fracas after Sunday's Michigan-Wisconsin game. Punishment handed down. Big Ten and the school did it together, so there's not going to be an appeal here. It was after the game against Wisconsin, heated moment in the handshake line. Howard ended up taking a swing at a Badger assistant coach and getting him in the head with an open hand. All right, let's bring in our guys. Tim Doyle played in the Big Ten, was an All-American at Northwestern. Chip Patterson covering college hoops for us as well. So suspended for the rest of the regular season. Going to get to coach in the Big Ten tournament. And if they make the NCAA tournament, he'll get to coach there. But he's done for the rest of the regular season. You know, it's like it's porridge, right? Too hot, too cold, or just right? Is this punishment too hot, too cold, or just right for you, Tim Doyle?
It was what I imagined. Now, I have been in fights in corporate America, and it has not been good for either party. Go Google that. But I did play against Joe Krabenhoff, and that's what Joe Krabenhoff does. He's the assistant coach from Wisconsin that Juwan Howard tried to mush his face. It wasn't really a punch. It was more of like a mush.
Open hand,
motion. Yeah, so that's what Joe did. I mean, I played against him. He was one of those guys that was always like pinching it in the back and giving you the short elbows and stuff. He was an irritator. He was a really good player at Wisconsin. I think this is just right to answer your question. I don't think that he should have lost his job. This is a horrible example by a head coach to his student athletes. He already has some past history of maybe not, being the best of citizens, but I don't think you lose your job over this one. But Chip, one more mistake, and I think you do lose your job.
Chip, he hit. I mean, let me play devil's advocate here. And I went to the University of Michigan Law School. I love Juwan Howard. He hit an opposing coach. You either can hit an opposing coach and still keep your job, or you cannot. He's apparently can do that and still keep his job. Was this too hot, too cold, or just right for you?
I think that it was a little bit too cold. I probably would have extended this all the way towards the Big Ten tournament if I was the Big Ten, and here's why. Because Juwan Howard at the Big Ten tournament, if he makes his return from a 5-game suspension, it becomes a distraction. It becomes a story that has nothing to do with what you're trying to celebrate in terms of being the Big Ten. So that's why if I was the Big Ten, I would have made this decision. Michigan, and to that point, Michigan was one of the great stories before tip-off last night against Wisconsin. They had turned things around. Hunter Dickinson was looking like one of the best players in the Big Ten, as we'd expected. They had gone from going 1-3 in conference play to winning 7 out of their next 10. And now Juwan Howard's absence from the team will absolutely impact the team. Any other suspensions that come from this will 100% impact the team. Juwan Howard could not be on the sideline for the rest of the regular season, especially because of the 5 games that are remaining. 4 are at home, and these are all premier games that are going to be on big broadcasts, big audiences. If you wanted to lay down disciplinary action in a way that would keep other coaches from ever thinking about crossing this line, which was unthinkable for a lot of coaches, then you had to be able to remove him from the rest of the regular season. Again, I might have gone with a 10-game, and so you maybe even extended into the conference tournament. But Michigan went from being a big disappointment this season to a midseason turnaround story, and all the work that was done by those players, all the work that was even done by Juwan Howard and his staff, it is just a footnote in the Michigan 2022 basketball season, because all we're going to talk about is that open-handed mush from Juwan Howard after a very disappointing loss, by the way, to Wisconsin.
Chip, let me follow up on what you said in terms of their turnaround, right? They're right now, according to Jerry Palm, first 4 out. Right? Mm-hmm. So they are the ultimate bubble team. They're right there. When they get into the room, the committee, and Michigan comes up on the overhead projector, the PowerPoint, however they do it, does this factor in? I mean, do they look and go, if we come down to this team and another team and we are splitting hairs, do you think they will say, well, do we really want to reward this team, or are they going to be completely, like in college admissions, need blind and just look at the resume and not factor this in?
You cannot be blind when you're going to say that suspensions for players injuries for players, all of these things are used as contacts, it absolutely has to have a value. The thing that is in Michigan's favor is that when you've got all of these big-time Quadrant 1 opportunities, for the most part, they are just that, opportunities. That if you lose games in which you're an underdog to better teams, that's not going to be huge for your overall NCAA tournament argument. I would say that maybe if Michigan is able to win, even with Howard sidelined in one of these great Quad 1 opportunities against a top 30 team at home, then maybe it ends up providing a little bit of a boost. Maybe the committee looks at the high loss total and notes that Howard was not there for the last 5 games of the season. But for the most part, when we look at Michigan in the NCAA tournament picture, it's all laid ahead of them. The teams, the opportunities to be able to change your NCAA tournament future are all still there, even after the loss to Wisconsin. But Juwan Howard won't be there, and that's because of his own actions.
Yeah, and let's look at where Michigan is going to be now going forward. You got a pretty good assistant coach who's been around the block. In Phil Martelli, he got St. Joseph's to a Final Four led by Jameer Nelson and Delonte West. And I have to give Juwan Howard credit. He did a great job of building his staff. Even though he had never coached in the college game, he was like, I got to go get someone with experience to kind of be my Yoda sitting beside me. So, Phil does an amazing job of building relationship with the players. This is going to be a rallying cry for him. And they are trending in the right direction. And February becomes the dog days of the season. Teams start kind of giving up, start playing younger guys, or they start turning it on and maybe see that glimpse. This could change the course of their season, not necessarily in a negative way, maybe even in a positive way, Eric.
All right, I'm going to follow up one more with you, Tim, because you mentioned the Wisconsin coaching staff. They were jawing just as good as they were getting in terms of the jawing, but they didn't throw hands, right? The hands first got thrown by Juwan Howard. What do you want to do here with Wisconsin? Do you want to see them suffer any discipline, any missed games? They get a slap on the wrist. What are you going to do if you're in charge of Wisconsin? And by the way, Matt Norlander told us that Wisconsin will not appeal anything the Big Ten does to any one of their coaches. They'll just take it.
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting question because it takes 2 to tango, you know what I mean? And it wasn't just Greg Gard, who, if you haven't seen social media, get on Twitter. Juwan Howard and Greg Gard have many interactions before games, after games. There's touching of the wrist. There's touching. That is no place for an assistant coach like Joe Krabenhoff to kind of jump in there. But it's Big Ten. It's conference season. Things get heated. You see 2 guys are kind of – it's starting to die out right when they get separated. See, and the assistant coach comes in, and now we go 0 to 100. And then he starts jawing with players, and I think Juwan's out there protecting his player. And there's the mush, kind of open hand slap. I don't think you lose your job over that. You can't do that. You should be suspended. But it wasn't a direct punch. There was no blood. I don't think you should lose your job over that. But I would not be surprised if there is some discipline towards Wisconsin.
I expect there will be. I would have said see you next year, Juwan Howard. I'm not upset with the fact that they said see ya at the end of the regular season. And I think Wisconsin will get something. Not as much as Juwan Howard, but they will get something. They were clearly not blameless here as well. Well done, guys. Certainly appreciate your thoughts. Juwan Howard done for the rest of the regular season. Here is the rest of their schedule. And again, they are the ultimate bubble team. And 3 of the remaining 5 are against ranked teams. And the other 2, Rutgers and Iowa, they're good. There's not a night off left. And they're going to have to make some hay if they want to get in. Jerry Palm currently has Michigan one of the first 4 out of the NCAA tournament.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.